What's up everybody, it's Matt from TDM Style here. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk all about hair dryers. Now, if you're not new to the channel, you may remember that I did a video like this. I did a, buyer's guide, hair dryer shopping guide all the way back in 2017. So it's been a minute, and that video actually has been getting a substantial uptick in views recently. So I thought, because that video was so old and I made that, before I ever had like the Dyson or the Shark or, well, really any of the dryers that I have now, I thought it was due time to make an updated version of that, and that way we can include all of these new dryers with the sort of new technologies that are now available. So if you are in the market for a new hair dryer, I want to give you as much information as possible so that you can make an informed decision on what you might want to buy. Also, if you are new to the channel, if you wouldn't mind subscribing and liking, that would be great. So what are the big differences between what we can call maybe like drugstore dryers, like the cheap, the Conairs, the $25 hair dryers, and then more of the expensive professional level stuff? So the first thing, obviously the first difference that you're going to see is the price tag. I mean, if you go to, Target, Walmart, whatever, drugstore place where they sell a bunch of different hair dryers that all surprisingly look the same, they're gonna be ranging from, say, $20 to maybe $50 at the upper end, maybe a little bit higher than that. Then you've got the middle of the road stuff, which I would say falls in that range of like between $50 to, let's say, $150. And then you have the professional level dryers, which are anywhere from $150 plus. Now, a lot goes into the determination of that price, and that's exactly what we're going to cover in this video, because there's a lot of shit. And one big thing that is going to play into how much the dryer costs is the quality of materials and what's actually used to create that thing, right? So if you're buying a $25 dryer, it's going to be cheaper, lighter plastics, and just in general, it's going to be cheaper stuff. I mean, it's got to be cheap price tags, so you got to have cheap materials. In the more expensive dryers, it's going to be better materials. It's going to be metals, aluminum, whatever. I mean, not for the whole thing because it would get too hot, but, metal handles. We got high quality plastics, heavy duty power cords and stuff, which more on that later. But just in general, part of what you're paying for is the quality of the device itself. Also to do with that price is normally what kind of a warranty is included. And from my experience, the cheaper dryers have basically negligible types of warranty. Like they're gonna give you maybe a 30-day or 90-day limited hardware warranty, which basically is just dog shit. Like there's no reason. I mean, here's the thing. You buy a $25 dryer and you drop it and you break it into a million pieces. Are you really gonna bother trying to get a warranty replacement? Or are you just gonna go spend another $25 and get a dryer? But on the flip side of that, if you just spent $300 on a professional level dryer and something happens, it's got a defect or it just stops working or whatever, and you've only had it for 6 months, you're not gonna wanna go buy another $300 dryer, right? You're gonna wanna have that warranty to get it either, fixed or replaced for free. And now, of course, the warranty lengths are going to vary based on the manufacturer and stuff, but like two of the most popular ones, we have the Dyson and the new Shark Hyper Air. The Dysons, when you buy them new, they have a 2-year warranty, and the Shark, based on what package you get, either has a 2-year warranty or a 5-year warranty. Also, if you're interested in seeing a meticulous breakdown of the differences between those two dryers, I have a whole video on that, so I'll put that up here in the card, and as well as a link down below. Now, I think something that goes hand in hand with the quality materials and the warranty and everything is just the longevity of the device that you're gonna get. What's the lifespan gonna be? Odds are pretty high that if you're spending only $20-25 on a hair dryer, it's probably not gonna last you as long as one that maybe costs $200 or $300 or even $400 will last you. But there certainly are going to be exceptions to that, but generally speaking, especially based on how much you're going to use it. So if you're using it every day, or if you're actually in a professional setting and you're using it multiple times a day on clients, you're gonna want something that's gonna give you a lot of hours of usage, and the cheap dryers just aren't gonna be there. They will just give out after a certain amount of time. I mean, these things have moving parts in them. Obviously they have heating elements, so there's a lot of factors that go into how many hours you're gonna get out of that device before it just eventually just dies. Now, another thing that, I feel like is probably less important, but it is still a thing to be aware of, is gonna be just like the physical size of the dryer, as well as like the weight and the storage capabilities, we'll say. So typically your cheaper dryer is gonna look like this. It's gonna have this form factor. There are also plenty of professional level dryers that look exactly like this as well. So this is like your pretty super common blow dryer silhouette, right? And for these, most of the weight is up here because that's where the motor is. And so depending on how long you're gonna be using it and how heavy it is gonna be, how tired your arm is gonna get. And, versus something like the Dyson, the motor is in the handle, so most of the weight is here rather than on the top. So it's gonna be different based on your preferences and how you like the weight distribution to feel and that sort of thing. And also, where are you storing this thing? Are you shoving it in a drawer? Or some dryers, like if you get the professional version of the Dyson one, it actually comes with like a stand or a wall mount. Or a lot of professional dryers, this is a thing that I don't see on the cheap ones, that they have something like this, like the loop on the end. So if you can just have a hook and you can just hang it on the hook. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is a hugely important one for me, is the power cord. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. On cheap dryers, I have a major problem with the power cords. I might be generalizing, but I've never seen a cheap dryer with a decent looking power cord. They're always like 3 feet long maximum, so they're short and they're skinny and they're just shit. And the length of it is huge for me, because unless you have an outlet that's like right next to the mirror that you're using, it's not fucking long enough. Like a 3-foot power cord on a hairdryer where you're gonna be moving it around your head, you want the ability to move that thing around without getting stuck because the cord is too short. And you don't want to bring like extension cords into the mix, because then it's a fire hazard. So one thing that you will see on all dryers that are, I would say, just above a certain price point, but more specifically the professional level ones, the power cords are going to be really long. So for instance, the Dyson power cord is 9 feet long. The Shark is almost the same. This is like 8 feet 2 inches or something, so really long. Then we have stuff like this guy. This is the Salon Guy folding hairdryer. So this is what I would call like a travel size, because it's smaller. You can fold the handle, if I can remember how to do this. So like this. So that's more easily, stored in a drawer or packed into a suitcase or something. And now even this power cord is, I think, 2.3 meters, so it's a little over 6 feet long. And now this one here, this was my old purse styler. I don't think that they even make this anymore. This one actually has like a 7-foot power cord, which is pretty good. This was like a $50 hair dryer. And this was my first one that was like decent. But also, the better quality dryers, the power cords are not only going to be super long so that you have the ability to move around and not have to be right next to a freaking outlet, but they're also going to be thick. They're not those little skinny, chintzy piece of shit ones that are just going to wear out after plugging and unplugging it a few times. Now, another consideration is what sort of, attachments, nozzles, or other goodies might they come with. Now, most dryers, regardless of their price, are probably going to come with something like a condenser nozzle and maybe a diffuser, or some of them come with like a brush type of thing. So that's pretty universal. And one thing that is nice about, this kind of standard form factor is that a lot of the nozzles are interchangeable. So if you buy a dryer and it doesn't have whatever nozzle you want to use for some reason, but you had one from a previous dryer, it'll probably fit on this. Obviously, that will not be the case for things like the Dyson, because they're made specifically, these are magnetic, and obviously you can't just shove any old nozzle on there, but they're gonna come with all the nozzles that you would need. And, so I think in general, most people are only really going to need a condenser nozzle. You'll need a diffuser if you've got curly hair and you want to do that, but if you don't need a diffuser, the condenser nozzle will pretty much get you through most styling. Now, another category where things are going to be a bit different is just the wattage, or power level. Power level? Or in other words, how much energy is it using and how fast can it move that air through, which, and amongst other things, will translate into how fast is it going to dry your hair. I would say Pretty typical for the cheaper dryers, you're going to be seeing things in the realm of like 1800 watts. When you get into the professional level stuff, you're generally going to be seeing things in the 2000 plus wattage range. So 2000, 2200, 2400. And so originally that basically meant like the higher wattage meant more power. So, well, I mean, it does. Power wattage is a measurement of power. But so basically, the higher wattage used to mean just better. You know, more wattage, more power, faster airflow. That isn't totally the case anymore with the introduction of these new kind of technology dryers. For instance, you know, the Dyson, the Shark, even this travel dryer from the Salongai, which is kind of a similar, you know, similar form factor and similar kind of what they're going for in terms of the how it works. So like the Salongai one, it ranges from 1100 to 1400 watts. The Dyson, I think, is 1600, and the Shark is like 1680. So in those cases, you know, at first glance, you might think, well, the power is lower, so how can they possibly dry your hair way faster, as they claim to, than, you know, a more standard style of hair dryer? Well, it basically comes down to science. I mean, so these new dryers have chips and bits in there, and they, you know, heat regulation sensors and all kinds of other shit. And so in that case, the lower wattage basically just means you're going to be consuming less energy. And it does not directly relate to how powerful the dryers are. And I can say that from firsthand experience, because in the case of the Dyson, the Salongai one, and the Shark, they all dry my hair literally twice as fast as a standard dryer that I used before. Now, there are certainly other factors besides just the wattage that account for the dry time or the effectiveness, right? So that kind of perfectly moves us into this category. So differences you're going to see there from cheap to expensive are what the heating elements are made out of and the different technologies that they may or may not have. So names that get thrown around a lot are like negative ion technology, tourmaline, and ceramic. Those are always, they're just like sprinkled in there. And now that's not to say that you won't see $25 dryers with those terms on the box, because there are plenty of those. I mean, I had one. I think I had like a purple $20 or $25 Conair that was like negative ion, whatever. But, you know, that's not always the case. And it comes down to the sort of quality thing. In a lot of the cheaper dryers, the heating element is going to be metal. That's always been like the classic, you know, before the ceramic heating elements were introduced, they were made out of metal because metal gets hot. And the main drawback to that is that it doesn't heat up evenly. You know, parts of it will get hotter than others, and so it just leads to a less, what's the word I'm looking for here? Consistent, that's the one. A less consistent drying experience. Most dryers these days, even the cheaper ones, are now using ceramic heating elements, and the main reason for that is because ceramic heats up evenly, it heats up probably faster. But generally speaking, if you have a choice between a metal heating element or a ceramic one, you want the ceramic one. Now, what is tourmaline, and what's the difference between tourmaline and something else that doesn't say tourmaline but says negative ion technology? Well, they have the same end goal, and that is to produce negative ions. Why? Well, when your hair is wet, it's full of water molecules, which have a lot of positive ions. And so when your hair dryer is shooting negative ions, that's helping to, for lack of a better term, like to break apart those water molecules and get them off of your hair more quickly. So what is tourmaline then? Well, tourmaline is actually a precious metal that they will basically crush into dust and sprinkle it onto the heating element. And tourmaline has this unique property that when it gets hot, it produces negative ions. So a tourmaline dryer creates negative ions. A dryer that has negative ion technology that's not tourmaline still creates negative ions. It's just a matter of how they go about doing it. And there is, I guess, some debate out there about whether tourmaline is, you know, better at doing it. But the point is, you want a dryer with some kind of negative ion technology. Whether it's from tourmaline or not, that's up for debate. Because again, you will see cheap dryers that advertise tourmaline, and you'll see very expensive professional dryers that advertise the same thing. And I think really what that comes down to is probably, how well produced is that heating element? How much tourmaline is in it? Maybe the cheap one, it might be in there, but maybe there's a tiny little sprinkle. And the professional one, it's got like a nice coating. And similarly, with the really expensive stuff, the Dyson, the Shark, these of course have negative ion technology in them. I don't think that these use tourmaline. They do some other method of bits, chips, science, but whichever way you want to look at it, whichever way your dryer is producing negative ions is good. Negative ions in a hairdryer are good. And not only is it going to help to dry your hair faster, but they also help in smoothing the hair and reducing frizz and creating a nice shine. And, hand in hand with what the heating element's made of and whether or not it's producing negative ions is, how hot does the thing really get? Professional dryers can get very hot. We're talking 275 Fahrenheit plus. We're cooking with peanut oil now. And so on one hand, the hotter it gets, the faster it's going to dry your hair, and maybe the easier it's going to make styling, because as your hair dries and gets heated and the protein structure is changing, that's how you can actually start using a brush to kind of shape the hair. And now the thing that, these newer kind of technology-focused dryers are doing, that, as I mentioned before, they have like heat regulation sensors in there so that they're not getting super hot. And again, I did a very comprehensive review of that in the other video. But basically what you need to know is they're not getting these, at least those two dryers, I haven't measured everything, but like the Dyson and the Shark, for instance, they will not get above like 235-ish Fahrenheit degrees, and they'll regulate themselves, they'll drop back down, and they'll keep within a certain range. And the idea there is, basically, so that it doesn't get so hot that you're risking heat damage. And combined with the other technologies in there, the whole end goal is to dry your hair faster, more efficiently, without heat damage, and while also giving you, the smoothness and frizz control and things that you find in like a tourmaline dryer. So that's basically most things, I think, that you might be considering if you're looking to buy a new dryer. So my thoughts on the whole thing: just avoid the cheap shit. Just don't do it. Don't buy it. Don't waste your $25 on a piece of shit dryer that is not going to be that effective in terms of drying time. It's probably going to heat unevenly. It may even get really way too hot, and you end up, based on how you use it, you might have to worry about heat damage there. And it's not going to last you as long. The power cord's going to be too short. It's just not worth your money. In my opinion, it's much better to just save a little more money and get something expensive. Get something professional level, whether it's like a Babyliss Pro or the Dyson if you want to spend $400, or the Shark between say $200 and $250 based on the package, or this Salon Guy dryer, this was $90, I think. So if you spend a little more money, you're going to get something that's higher quality. It's going to have the longer power cord, it's going to last you a lot longer, and it's just going to work better. As I mentioned before, I can tell you from personal experience, now that I've used all of these different dryers, the Salon Guy one, the Dyson, the Shark, they all dry my hair easily twice as fast as a cheaper kind of standard construction hairdryer. So yeah, that's my thoughts. If you're in the market for a hairdryer, get something professional level. Don't waste your time and money on the cheap crap. So that wraps things up for this video. I hope that you enjoyed this and found it helpful, informational. And I am planning a full breakdown review of the Salon Guy dryer, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned, because that's hopefully coming very soon. So if you haven't already, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to keep up to date with all that upcoming content I got coming for you, and also because it helps me out. And as always, thank you so much for coming by and watching. I'll see you at the next one.